Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about, is that it, everything? I've had a couple of questions afterwards. Okay. All right, this is Stop the Bleed. This is a national campaign. And so it's not something that I've come up with. This is something that's being taught all across the nation. These are the groups, the collaborative effort with these groups. One of the biggest ones that I have dealings with being taught trauma care, tactical care at the federal level. It's going to be that third one, the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care. It stands for Team Triple C. And that's what's coming out of the military. And that's where a lot of this stuff is coming out. The military makes changes much quicker than the civilian side. It takes a long time for the civilian side to decide to do something. If they want to implement tourniquets, they got to have all kinds of studies and determinations whether or not tourniquets are going to hurt. The military, they're much quicker with that. They can determine right on the spot because they're seeing it. This is what we're going to do. They're going to do it because they're just not held to the liability that the civilian side is. I mean, the military can pretty much do whatever they want to do, and the courts have said, yeah, you do whatever you want to do. All right. So they're moving very quickly. Determine this. So that's a good place to look at things and what's happening. Of course, they're into it every day. All right, some images shown during this presentation are graphic, may be disturbing to some people. We'll give you those graphic warnings. With a name like Stop the Bleed, what are you expecting to see? So don't say you wasn't warned, all right? This ain't kittens and puppy dog class, all right? So we'll give you a warning, but if you're the type that sees blood and passes out, then we'll get people on either side of you so you won't fall into the floor, okay?
We'll be there for you.
Just go ahead and sit on the floor now.
Or just look down or whatever. There are people like that. So, anyway. Number one cause of preventable death after injury is bleeding. That's the number one thing. So what they're finding on battlefields and other places is that bleeding is something we can do something about. That's the number one cause. I mean, you got your airway and all that stuff, airway, breathing, circulation, all that. What they're finding is the bleeding is what's killing people. So that's the big issue here, is to be able to stop that. Now, wherever this might be, it's not necessarily in the lower right-hand corner about 5 o'clock you got the gunfire. That's certainly a factor, and that's why you're here mainly, is because if we got an active shooter, generally speaking, you may have some casualties there that we can save. But it's anything, folks. Car wreck. I know our fire department has put tourniquets on people in car wrecks where that femoral something or breaker was severed, and they had to get a tourniquet on to save their life. So that's certainly something that could happen to you. So I don't want you to think about tourniquets from the standpoint of emergency medical only when you're working security. Man, we got med kits all over the place, man. We got one now. I know that probably don't surprise a lot of you, but we got them in cars, we got them in all that. And when we're talking about this, we're not talking about burn cream, Band-Aids, and all that. We have that. What we're talking about is trauma stuff to save a life. And usually with that, you've got a real compressed time. So it's good to have the Band-Aids and everything, but we're talking more trauma stuff. But there's all kinds of places you could have that. All right, first thing, the goal is you want to identify, recognize life-threatening bleeding. I'm going to show you some videos, so hopefully you'll be able to see that and recognize it. And then we want to take steps to stop the bleeding. That is pressure, packing, and tourniquet. We're going to be working in breakout sessions with the equipment to be able to have hands-on to be able to do that. So that's the 3 things we're going to do to be able to stop that bleeding. Your safety is your first priority. If you're injured, you cannot help others. Help others only when it's safe to do so. If the situation changes, becomes unsafe, stop, move to safety. If you can, take the victim with you. Now, I say this, when we talk about you've got to provide the safety first, all right? You got an active shooter. One of your teammates goes down. He's in the hallway. He goes down, the shooter standing in the hallway. Rushing out to him to put a tourniquet on him is going to entail one thing. It's going to end up you getting shot, right? Because you haven't taken care of the guy that's caused the problem in the first place. Does that make sense? So don't rush out there. There's a good picture of in Fallujah, some Marines. And the guy goes down out in the street, and it shows another Marine going out there dragging him back. He gets hit, he goes down, and another Marine goes out there and tries to get back. And the Marine that went down initially, he's gone. They couldn't save him. There just wasn't time. He got an arterial bleed and killed him. So the point is the other Marine went out there and got shot without taking care of the initial problem. And it's hard to tell people not to do that. I mean, you understand that, because the thing is, my man went down, I'm going to get him. So it's tough. But what you got to do is combat that. Take a few seconds. The guy's in the hallway. Take care of him. put him down. Take an extra 5 or 6 seconds, put him down, and then go get your guy. Make sense? Because you can't help him if you run out there and get shot. So nobody's going to get a tourniquet on him. So make sure the scene's safe. Make sure you do that. Wear gloves if you can. Now here's the deal. How many of you's been through medical training? And the first thing they do, put on gloves. They preach that to the point. Here's the deal. Who carries gloves? I got gloves on. I carry the gloves. But the issue is, here's a situation you got. Jason takes a hit. You're bleeding all over the place. You don't have any gloves. Are you going to put a tourniquet on him or not? You better bet you are. Absolutely. You got to understand that when we're talking about putting gloves on, you're dealing with the medical community, the law enforcement community, first responder, that we don't have any idea who this person is. We don't know the drug use, what their life is like. We can probably safely say people in the church probably going to be a little better off than that. Are you with me? Okay? Now, we don't know everybody's medical history, are you saying? But probably not a heroin user and, probably in a monogamous relationship. You know what I'm saying? So we're safer in that environment. Does that make sense? The bottom line is, get some blood on your hands, saving a life. I think the choice is obvious. All right? Because really, truly, your hands are a barrier anyway. Just because you get blood on your hands don't mean you're going to contract whatever they have. All right. I just wanted to tell you that because we're moving away from that, trying to, if I don't have gloves, I can't save them. We wouldn't want to do that. Nobody's going to do that anyway. Of course, you'll want to tell the healthcare provider on that. All right, first thing we do is alert 911. We'll get those medical professionals rolling. They're going to have some equipment and stuff that we need. You want to know your location, and you want to follow instructions provided by the 911 operator. So that's the first thing, get that rolling. With bleeding, we want to find the source of the bleeding, and we're looking for continuous bleeding, large volume of bleeding, and pooling of blood. I'm going to show you what that's going to look like here in just a minute. But that's what we're looking for. If you just got a cut or something going on and there's a little bit of blood there, we got time for that. That's going to be different than what we're dealing with here. There may be multiple places the victim is bleeding, and clothing may also hide life-threatening bleeding. So if we can't...
Next slide is a warning.
Okay. So if we can, we're going to talk about clothing. A lot of times, how many's heard get the clothing out of the way? Everybody gets to take their EMT shears and cut the pants off. Don't cut these pants off. Take them off. They're expensive. But a little bit of blood. No, it'll wash it out. Don't cut these things off.
So you hold them anyway.
We got an officer that got hit by a car. We're unfortunately out of detail. The car hit him out on the street, and he went down. And this guy is so into dress. I mean, this guy looks like GQ. He bought his own uniforms that were 100% wool. All right, because we didn't issue 100% wool uniforms. So he bought his own one. Well, we got a guy come up that's got every piece of gear you can buy. All right. I mean, if he don't buy something from Galls every week, they send him a note to his wife saying sorry for your husband passing and all that. So he got up there and cut those pants off of him. And I don't know why in the world he cut his pants off of him, because I don't think he had no injury on his pants. He just wanted to cut some clothes off of him. He was so mad about that. So, but if we can, we got some bleeds and we can't tell, and we're in an environment we can do so, we do want to expose that and find out what's going on with the bleeding, okay? Because the clothing can hide that. The clothing can soak up. So we want to do that if we can. All right, oops, sorry. We're back up. All right, caution.
I said
I developed this PowerPoint. I added a slide on it. So what you're going to see here, on the left, you're going to see an arterial bleed. All right? Sorry. Sorry, look away. Arterial bleed. It is from a pig. All right? It is from a pig. So, but this is what you're going to see. Pigs are very close to humans, and from this aspect, you're going to see arterial bleed. This is what you may see on a really bad arterial bleed. All right, y'all ready? You want to see it? All right, here we go. All right, there you go. So blood splurting out of the wound. So you see that blood just going. You can almost see the heartbeat. Everybody see the heartbeat as it's going? And it's bloody. Now, that's a lot of blood coming out, folks. All right?
Do we know what happened to the pig?
No.
Breakfast.
So, now I want you to also notice the color of the blood, very bright red is what you're looking for. Very bright red blood and a large volume, all right? Now think you got about 4 liters of blood in you, somewhere along that. Once you hit about 1.5 liters of blood, you're gonna start becoming unconscious, okay? Now, you're not gonna die at that point, but it's not gonna be good. So every bit of that blood that hits the ground, we can't put it back in you. So we gotta stop that bleeding. The one on the right, that's a leg. You can see it's a compound fracture. You'll see actually the bone coming out right there. Now, the issue with that is you don't see the blood splurting, but you got a huge soaked up spot on the ground where it run down. So that's something to look for too. So don't just automatically look for blood spurting. Look for how much blood is on the scene there at the time. Because if they've got clothes on, pants on, that blood's not going to penetrate through the pants and spit at you, okay? It's going to go all out and just soak everything. So you'll have to roll up and see this huge puddle of blood where it's soaked through the pants and come out. Make sense? So look for those two things. But you'll notice big right. All right. This is a video of a, which one's first, Melanie? Yeah. Brachial, the trooper.
This is the, no, not the car chase. This is the other one.
Okay, this is a situation where they're chasing a suspect, they end up shooting him, he catches one in the leg, and he's bleeding out, and they put a tourniquet on. But pay attention on this, it's a body cam, so a lot of movement, but I want you to notice the amount of blood, how quickly the amount of blood is, and the red, how red it is. I didn't hit it again, or not?
You need to go back.
Okay, go back.
I got it right here.
Oh, that's just that. Do we have sound? We don't know. You don't need sound.
No.
This is him coming up. He's running right here. He fires a shot in the air. They start engaging.
Okay.
Can you do the next one? Or you
Yep.
want me
I got it. Or go to the next slide. Okay, I'll hit play.
to? You see the amount of blood there? He says he's dying, which he's you see the blood coming out?
Yeah.
So there it's just poodle.
Did he work? Did he save him?
I don't know.
Oh, it's awful slow there.
Yeah.
Take time.
See why we're
He
practicing.
pulled it back off because he had it on wrong, which can happen. All right. There's a lot to that. All right, so you saw, and I'm telling you, from the one I stopped when he fired, they moved in on him pretty quick. So that was a lot of blood really fast. You see how quick that happens. The question is, did he make it? Probably, because he was still conscious and alert when they spun that windlass. Yeah. So he probably made. There's no reason why he didn't make it. As long as they put that tourniquet on right and they spun it, stopped that blood flow, he's gonna be good to go.
That
All
was
right.
a big puddle though.
That was a big puddle. That sure was. He
He
didn't
didn't
have
put gloves
gloves
on either.
Now, if those officers, they didn't put any gloves on, you notice that. They didn't put any gloves on. So, if they would have backed up and waited on EMS, what would happen to that guy? He's dead. He'd been dead before EMS got their boots on. All right? Really and truly. So there's no way to wait. So that's why about all law enforcement now is running with tourniquets on. So just, you know, and
But
they're
Ben went to
using
the
them.
car to get one. He had it on his ankle.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Did he have it on his ankle?
Yes.
Pull it
Yeah,
off.
we're wearing them, we got them on belts, people wearing them on ankles, they got them all over the place, but anyway, the biggest line, the thing is doing that, and they're using them, here's the deal, they're using them more times on other people, on the suspects they shot than on themselves, so. All right, next one is, this guy is using, this is a car chase, and an officer ends up getting shot, he catches one here in the artery here in his arm, and I want you to look again at the amount of blood that you're dealing with, okay?
Hey, the Guadalupe Truth, Chris 107, how far behind are you guys? 6631 to 107. We're 150 right now. I'm on 10. Got another unit on the Actors Road. Okay, 10-4. He's still slow rolling it. Coming up to Fruitenberg Road. Still on the access. It's like he's getting out. He's under the floorboard, guys. Under the floorboard. Be careful. Be careful. Under the floorboard, guys. Watch it. Picking up a defensive position, guys. Shots fired. Shots fired. Troop down. Troop down. Let's get EMS en route. Troops down. Got a head cut. Troops down. Gonna be a small caliber weapon. Small caliber weapon.
Still in blood?
Either 9 mil, something like that, to EMS, and he shot in the right arm. 107, you got an ETA on EMS?
107, stand by, we're good with you.
7 to the troops, I think we're gonna try to land and medevac him ourselves, copy that?
107, will you be taking them to Dempsey so that we can notify them?
University.
Confirming you said University.
University, San Antonio. And if you can find out what frequency their pad uses. Either 9 mil, something like that, to EMS, and he shot in the right arm.
Pick your game
All
now.
right, that's good. Okay, if they had not had a tourniquet, that trooper would have made it. There's just no way. He's just losing too much blood. Now, the only thing I'd say is they land that helicopter, but, I mean, literally on, now, the artery here is not near as bad as the leg, the amount of blood it pumps. But there's just not gonna be enough time to get him in the helicopter and get him back there. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. So those tourniquets are critical. But did you see all the blood, how quickly that was pouring out of there? So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for, high volume, bright red blood, all right? All right, so bleeding, we're looking at extremities. That's where tourniquets are gonna come in. If it's anywhere on the extremities, we can put a tourniquet. Arms and legs. Now, we may have bleeding in the neck, armpits, or groin. Can't get a tourniquet on that, so we'll deal with that as well. And then the last place is gonna be in the body, all right? So we'll talk about each one of those. The first thing we can do is we can use a pressure, what people call just a pressure dressing, to put pressure on it. Sometimes that will stop the bleeding. We won't apply direct pressure to the wound. We want to focus on location of the bleeding. Naturally, if they're bleeding here, you don't want to put pressure on the upper leg. Use just enough gauze or cloth to cover the injury, and if pressure stops the bleeding, keep pressure on the wound until help arrives. So once that pressure is applied and the bleeding stops, if you remove that, what is likely to happen? Yeah, because you'll pull those plates in, I'm not a doctor, so pull all that stuff off and it opens that wound back up. So that pressure's gotta stay there. All right, this has been an example here. Well, you may have to hit it from back there. This example where this individual, these will be the little dummies you're gonna be training with, but this is an injury. Go ahead, Melanie.
Okay.
And what she's showing you here is she's using just a shirt, anything you have, to be able to apply pressure over that. And she saw where she balled it up a little bit, put a little direct pressure, and then she just put pressure on it. So the point here is, the point here is whatever you have. I mean, you may not have your wound packing material and your bandages and all that, so. He's getting some ambiance here with the body.
Tell me what you need.
Oh, no, that's fine. We just, whatever they need. So, that good? Okay, so, use whatever you have, some kind of shirt or something like that, some cotton. Cotton is a natural blood stopper, all right? It'll actually form those platelets and help stop that. So I wouldn't say that a nice, one of those Under Armour shirts would work. I don't know, but cotton's what you're looking for. Anyway, read the tag, what is this? For large wounds, superficial pressure. For large wounds, your superficial pressure is not effective. If the bleeding is from a deep wound, pack cloth tightly into the wound until it stops the bleeding and hold pressure until help arrives. So what happens is what we're dealing with, specifically like with a gunshot wound, that bullet's going in, it severs that artery down deep. If just putting direct pressure on the top, it's not gonna do anything because the blood's just gonna come up, it's just gonna soak that cloth. and it's not gonna stop it, all right? It's just gonna continue soaking through and then finally start dripping out. So what we have to do here is we have to, you see the top picture there, the bottom picture is not gonna solve the problem. We have to get material in contact with that artery. We have to make contact with where the bleeding is coming to stop that bleeding, okay? So you're gonna have to pack that wound, and we'll show you that on these dummies, let you be practicing that, how to pack those wounds.
Chris,
Yes.
practical application of that is, remember that if you're packing somebody's bullet hole or wound from a car, they are going to be screaming if they're still conscious. If they're conscious, they're going to be screaming and trying to fight you.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to turn off their screaming or whatever they're doing. They're going to be saying, they're going to be yelling and doing all sorts of things because it hurts and they're panicked. So you just got to have the emotional strength to tune out that level of volume because it'll put you off.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is you're trying to help them, but when they scream, you think you're hurting them. So your natural reaction is to stop doing what you're doing, but by stop doing, they're gonna bleed to death. All right. So there's a little saying in this field that they say, that says, if they're not squealing, you're not healing. All right? So it's gonna hurt, and that's just gonna be part of it. All right, so this is packing a wound, so you may have a situation we just showed you here where it's deep, and this would be packing a wound. That happens to be some, now in this case, it's not, this is gonna be a slashing wound, which you'll get to do that too. And what you'll notice that she's doing is taking about 3 fingers and just plugging it into that wound. And if the slash is only 2 fingers wide, use 2 fingers. But as many fingers you can get in there, you're gonna pack it in there. I mean, you can imagine how bad it's gonna hurt. I mean, you know, it's gonna hurt. So that would be for a slash, maybe a knife attack where they're bleeding. So, yeah, the question is, how much do you pack in there?
As much as you
As much as it'll take. You pack it in, pack it deep and hard, and pack it in there. And at one point, it got full.
That pinches the artery then, all the
Yeah,
pressure
well,
in there?
yeah, what happens is that, well, there's a couple of things going on here. One is the material, like the cotton. In that case, that's a quick clot. That's got the agent.
Right.
It makes contact with that artery and seals it. So you won't be getting.
Physically or chemically?
Well, in the quick clot, it's gonna be a chemical agent. Yeah, it's gonna, cotton is a natural agent.
Just swelling of the.
It's just, cotton is a natural blocker. Any medical, any paramedics or anything in here that can use that, all that official terminology? All right, so it's the test done by the military is, on arterial bleeds, cotton will stop 50% of the time on an arterial bleed, 50%. Now you may say, man, that ain't good odds. Well, I know, but we're talking about arterial bleeds. This is a bad bleed. Cotton will work 50% of the time. It's pretty good on arterial bleed. Now, when you get into quick clot and Celox and all these agents, you're in the 90 percentile. You're in 92, 93 percentile.
So you'll usually see these in trauma kits.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you can afford them. Yeah. You know, cotton gauze, $250.
Coagulators, that's what we're looking for?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, these quick clots are about $40 a pack, and so regular cotton gauze is, but hey, I'll bill me.
Cheap insurance.
Bill me. I'll take the quick clot. $3.40, I'll take the 40. Stop that bleeding. So yeah, about 90-something% stop an arterial bleed with the quick clot or Celox. Okay. Packing arms, legs, necks, arms, groin. I'm really not sure what in the world they just reiterate this. All right. This is a brand new presentation by them, and I've been teaching off the old one, so I'm still, there's some things here I'm a little bit leery of. I'm not leery, but just kind of figure out where they're going with it. Okay, so these are areas that we pack. Now let me mention this because I don't think it's in here. If you have a body injury somewhere in the body, we do not stick quick clot in that. Okay? You can pack it with cotton or anything like that, but don't stick quick clot. Now, I don't know why. Something about body fluids, and it'll draw too much fluid out of the body or something. And again, if y'all know that, but they just told us at FLETC, anything in the body, don't stick quick clot in. So that's why I always like to have both regular cotton and a quick clot agent. Make sense? So, really and truly, any kind of injury to the body, There's things we can do, we'll talk about that, but the best thing you do to them, they need to get to a surgeon. That's how you're gonna save their life, is you've got to get them somebody that can open them up and stop the bleeding. Luckily, the internal injuries here are the body cavity, they've got a little bit of time. Unless they've taken a hard hit, but it's not gonna matter, the surgeon will be standing there anyway, so that's not gonna matter. Do what you can. Okay, compress on a tourniquet. So let's talk about tourniquets, and that's gonna be the extremities, right? I mean, you can't do a tourniquet around the neck and all that stuff or whatever. None of those areas you get a tourniquet on that's in the green. So, okay, this is one thing. Apply tourniquet 2 to 3 inches above the wound. All right. TCCC advocates that you go as high as you can on the limb. There's a saying that says high or die. All right. Now the reason be that when they say that, ideally, I guess you could go to 2 to 3 inches above the wound, it'd be sufficient. The issue is you need to know what injury you've got. If you know what caused the injury, then you would be okay. If you know it's a slice across here, then you can go 2 to 3 inches and be fine, generally. But if it's a bullet wound, if a bullet comes in here, a lot of times it'll hit that bone and turn straight up. So you don't know, it may be bleeding out here, but it actually damaged the artery all the way up here. So if I put it 2 to 3 inches up, I may not cut off the artery. Does that make sense? So if you don't know what injury you've got, you don't know what caused it, or if it's a missile injury like a bullet, then I can't take any chance on 2 to 3 inches, because when I finally realize that, they've already become unconscious and I probably died. So I want to go ahead and just go high onto the limb. Make sense? Okay, because what happens is it may sever and that artery will retract, all right, back up into that leg. So we want to go high. So that's the only thing that TCCC deviates from that, and what the FLETC teaches is they go high onto the limb. Do not place over elbow or knee, all right? First of all, you're not going to get the restriction you need to cut the blood flow. And if you start doing it over, okay, how many believe you put a tourniquet on, you're going to lose the limb? How many's heard that? Absolutely, you hear that. Put a tourniquet on, you're going to lose a limb. And then they say, well, it's better than dying. And that is a true statement. But you will not lose your limb. All right? Tourniquets can be applied for up to about 3 hours before there's any concern with that. Okay? So don't be scared to use the tourniquets. Now, if you start putting improvised tourniquets like foam cords and all that stuff on there, cables, then the chance of some nerve damage can happen, and you can lose a limb. Again, it's better than dying. But we're talking about improved tourniquets, all right? Yeah. So you got a regular tourniquet with a wide band there to put out that pressure. You're going to be good to go. Tourniquets are used every day in surgery, all right? It's how they cut the blood flow. I mean, how do you even cut into somebody to keep it from bleeding to death? So they use tourniquets. He's shaking his head there. We've got a doctor.
Just as a side note on, if you're not carrying your co-improvised tournament, you're not in the EMS, profession, I mean, use whatever you got, but, belts are a great improvised, because they're kind of wide, unlike a telephone cord or just a string or something.
Yeah.
Just throw it in. Belts are good improvised.
Now, this course is not about improvised tourniquets, but I'll tell you this, generally speaking, to get a tourniquet to work, you've got to get something that you can get a stick in to twist it. Just pulling something tight, you may go to slow it down some, that's certainly the case, but if you want to stop the bleeding, you've got to get something. And the problem with belts is, you got a leather belt, you can't twist it. It's very hard to twist. So, anyway, if you're looking for improvised, and you probably find this all over YouTube, but you're looking for something that'll get a windlass in and twist it. Okay. So, tighten the tourniquet. Anyway, the elbow and the knee, the problem with that, you will definitely get nerve damage in that. You get right into that pack of nerves right there in that, and you twist it, tighten it up, you're going to do nerve damage. And if that's the case, you'll probably take the arm or the leg. So there's no reason to. Don't do over the knee or the elbow, okay? Tighten tourniquet until bleeding stops. So you got that blood splurting and all that, you know how tight it need to go till that blood stops, okay? Do not remove the tourniquet. So you tighten it up, the blood stops, you go, good, I stopped it. You take it loose, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go again, okay? So once it's on, it's on. Do not take it off. The next person to take that off is going to be a surgeon. Can apply to others or yourself. You'll be practicing both of that today. Can be applied over clothes. The tourniquet is the only thing that they want you to apply over the clothes. Because the deal is, the tourniquet we're under time. We're under time. All right? We'd like to see you get a tourniquet on in 30 seconds. All right? So, we did a drill at the house. I came back from the training. So I walked in and so the drill was, I just throw a tourniquet at them. I said, 30 seconds, left leg, left leg. And they're dropping down. And
I mean,
putting
other
tourniquets
families
up.
play Monopoly and stuff. But it's okay.
I like that flag.
So, anyway.
And reload this AR magazine at
Right.
the same time.
Yeah.
As you're doing it.
Return fire.
I support this
So,
whole thing.
let you know what happens at our house. So, can be applied over clothes. The tourniquet is the one thing that they will allow you to put on in a hot zone. And a hot zone means there's not been secured. Okay? Now, I'm not saying rush out there in the middle of that, try to put it on the guy, but I'm saying you shoot this guy down, you get out in the hallway, there's not a lot of time to get this guy back to safety and start assessing. You've got to get that tourniquet on. So it's the one thing that allow you to put on what we call a hot zone, which means it hasn't been cleared. Does that make sense to you? All right. Everything else we'll deal with later. All right. Tourniquets hurt. You're going to find that out today because we're going to put them suckers on you and we're going to put them on right, and they're going to hurt. Just tell you right off the bat, they're going to hurt. All right. Not if you don't get them squealing, you ain't healing, okay? Second tourniquet may be required to stop the bleeding, especially in the legs. You get these guys with big legs, big muscular legs, with a lot of mass there. One tourniquet sometimes may not do the trick. So get one on, torque that thing down. If it may slow it, get another one on. If you put them on, they need to touch. You don't need gaps. Don't have gaps in between them. They're going to run right up against each other. Do not take the old one off. If you put one on and you get it cinched down, you're like, man, I don't know if I got it cinched down good enough. If you got a little bit of bleeding, don't take it off. Now, if it's a case where it's the only one you have, then you need to loosen it and get a better bite. I'll show you that, what we're talking about. All right. Melanie, play that.
Okay.
Now, this lady's putting one on her arm, and notice she's taking all that sweet time. Did that officer on the street in the gravel look like he's taking all that time? No. So she's showing you perfect though. Now here's the deal. That first bite, folks, that needs to be tight. You got it. When you pull that first time, they're probably going to feel it, or you're going to feel it. You shouldn't spin that windlass more than about, see, she's already, what's that, one time?
Two.
Three.
Two.
Three.
Well, 2.5.
You'll find, you get it on there tight enough, you get about 1.5 turns, it's gonna start biting. By 2 turns, you probably won't get any more. So, that windlass can only spin so much, so you don't want to.
Sounds off on this one.
Okay, you'll notice,
He's showing you.
we'll talk about this, she wrapped that, she wrapped the little tab over it, and she marked the time. The time is important for the surgeon. They need to know what time that tourniquet's applied. Because depending on how long it's on there, depends on how they take it off. And again, don't know the details on that, other than it's important for them to know the time.
So the TCCC, that's too low, right?
TCCC would probably go higher.
Okay.
Yep, they sure would. They would go higher. Now be careful about the arms. People tend to go high to get into the shoulder. Can't get into the shoulder. You got to stay down into that pocket here. There's 2 tourniquets that's approved by the military by TCCC. There's been one more added that's not up there. They are the CAT and the Soft T. Now, I've used both of them at that school, and I can tell you right now, and I got a bunch of Soft Ts you may want to buy. The CAT's the way to go. Now, the Soft T is from a good company, and they are approved by the military, and they're built like a tank. But I can't get them tight enough. I can't get them tight enough. They're very hard to put on one-handed by yourself. Putting them on somebody else is better, but the CAT to me is a better tourniquet. That's what you'll be training with today, okay? All right, talk about children, because we have kids here. In all but extremely young children, the same tourniquet can be used for adults and children, all right? For an infant or small child, the tourniquet's going to be too big. You understand these things are made for combat soldiers, right? So direct pressure on a wound described previously will work in virtually all cases. There's just not, with a very small child, there's not enough mass there to where you can't just put some direct pressure inside that. Everybody knows where the femoral runs, right? Right inside the leg. All right, and the brachial's inside here. All right? So you can put enough pressure in that, you'll pin that artery against the femur, and you'll stop the bleeding that way. And usually with like infants, you just use your hand pressure and stop the bleeding. Okay? But I've got a tourniquet here. I'll show you. It's not approved by military, but I'll show you that it'll work for this. For large, deep wounds, wound packing can be just as adults using the same techniques described below. So there's no different on the wound packing for that. So everybody clear on that with kids? You can try the tourniquet, but if they're very small, we're talking, you start getting into 4 and 5-year-olds, those tourniquets are probably not gonna work. I only got a kid out.
I got that SWAT tee, is that what
Yeah,
you're
I've got
talking
one
about?
too, I'm gonna show them that. All right, impaled objects. All right, what do we do with impaled objects? Jerk them out? No. Yeah, that's pretty much been a standard across the board, is you leave those objects in place. It's just like a nail in a tire, all right? You know, you don't wanna pull that out, so you leave it in place. Improvised tourniquets, we mentioned that with improvised tourniquets, somebody mentioned that? Yeah. So, on an improvised tourniquet, you gotta think about something that you can tie up, and you wanna be able to get some type of stick in there, some type of windlass to be able to twist and put that pressure on it, okay? Anyway, loss of armor leg, we talked about that, that's the misconception of people very hesitant. Now, they say, think tourniquet earlier rather than later, all right? Now, if they've just got a cut and there's a little bit of blood there, unless you see large volumes of blood, there's no reason to put a tourniquet on. All right, we can handle that with direct pressure. Pain, we already talked about that, there's gonna be pain. All right, that's just part of it. All right, so again, just like Nigel said, you gotta resist that, you gotta tell them it's okay, I'm trying to help you, it's gonna be okay. All right, any other questions? I know I hit that quick, but PowerPoint's one thing, but I will get you on the ground and get y'all doing this. Yes?
I recall from first aid training in the past, what's your recommendation in asking, can I,
Yeah.
getting permission?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
What was the question?
Asking, generally speaking, you're supposed to ask if you can help them. And I think civilly, that you still have,
good Samaritan law. Yeah.
there's still good Samaritan laws.
If you see blood fully, I'll
yeah.
know what they're saying.
Yes.
Usually pass out and then that's implied consent.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I would say in this case, what we're dealing with here, I would forego that. You can ask if you want to and say, I did ask them and I thought they nodded their head yes, I saw them
Don't
nod.
worry, it's not,
You have my-
one Christian to sue another Christian, so you're
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah.
I hate to bring this in here, but it's the same, back to the suicide thing, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
what if, you know, and they
The-
don't,
yes.
you know, stop and, I mean, you know, you're bleeding out, you just watched them,
Right.
you know, sever their own artery or whatever, or that's clearly what happened, and they're not wanting to be helped, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue to ask, I think, for civilly, but I think in this case, you can ask who you want to, if that's something you want to do, but I think we're gonna be good to go. Here's the problem you get into, liability-wise, is you're doing stuff outside of what you're trained to do. You know, so once you go through this training, it's a national campaign, looks like what you did, you go through some training, we're gonna do this, it's structured, you're okay, you start putting tourniquets on, packing wounds, you've been trained, does that make sense? Now, if they fall down and they're not breathing, you gonna do a mercy trach on them? That's probably not a good thing to do. If I know what a trach is, you go, hey, no, you start cutting into the throat, probably not a good thing to do. Now, you're back in the woods and you've looked at, you watched it on YouTube, and it's one of your kids or whatever, and they're gonna die, well, you know, good to go, right? But be careful about doing stuff that you're not trained to do, like a decompression needle. Everybody know what a decompression needle is? All right, so those are good to have, but I don't know, I haven't been trained to do a decompression needle, but anything that's you're jabbing into the body like that, there's some dangers there. So be careful about doing stuff that, like I said, you graduated from the University of YouTube, and you can, hey, you say, look, I pull up my history right here's where I watched it. Look at that, all the way through. Look at that red line all the way through. Not gonna work, guys.
Does that not stand up in court?
No. Other questions? That's a good question.
Are you going to cover, sucking chest wounds?
Well, it's not in the program, but I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna cover it. It's not in the program. That's extra. That's free.
The bonus?
But I did bring some chest seals. We're gonna talk about that. What else?
Was it?
Anything else? Okay, this is what we need to do. We need to clear out this room. So just start stacking chairs. We need enough room for this group to be divided into three groups. And we're gonna get some room and we're gonna practice on this stuff.
But remember, we gotta put the chairs back if they need.
If you haven't signed the roster for
Probably
this
like to
part,
stack them, guys.
please sign it.